Hello, and thank you again for joining us today. My name is Nathan Rolfe. I'm the president of the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces and your host for this segment. On behalf of the Tortora Brayda Institute and the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces, I would like to welcome you to this month's episode of our Cyber Workforce Series, where we speak with cyber professionals about their careers and journeys to help inform others on the diversity of paths within the cybersecurity industry, and hopefully support you, the listener, on your own personal cyber career journey. Before we meet this month's guest, I would like to share a little bit about the two organizations making this series possible, the Tortora Brayda Institute and the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces. The Tortora Brayda Institute was created to promote collaboration across public and private sectors with a focus on business, culture, and diversity. Tortora Brayda looks to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices with a view to improving and securing businesses and economies. A core concept of the Institute is their think tank for partnership in AI and cybersecurity. The think tank has allowed Tortora Brayda to bring together experts and leaders from the public and private sectors and academia around the world to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices while embracing the most critical technology growth. If you're not currently a member of the Institute, we invite you to visit their website at www.tortorabrayda.org to learn more and see how you can participate. The Association of U.S. Cyber Forces is a nonprofit professional association that provides the voice for members of the cyber workforce who serve in the military, government agencies, and industry on specific cyber issues impacting national security. AUSCF is an advocate for positive change to policies and programs that better serve the membership and help minimize gaps between the private and public sector cybersecurity efforts. If you'd like to learn more or join AUSCF, please visit our website at www.auscf.org. During today's discussion, please feel free to drop any questions that you may have into the chat, and as the time allows, we will definitely try to weave those into our answers. And as always, your questions will help directly shape this and other future events. Today's guest is Dr. Shafer Ramsey. Dr. Ramsey's career in artificial intelligence and cybersecurity spans several decades and crosses both public and private sector service. During his service to the defense and intelligence communities, he has expanded national capabilities and achieved great success in solving some of the field's most difficult challenges. In the private sector, Dr. Ramsey has held such titles as Chief AI Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Information Security Officer, and Chief Security Architect, among many others. He has worked for a number of companies from small businesses to Fortune 500 firms. In each role, he has used his real-world experience on both AI and cybersecurity, along with proven business reengineering principles to create new capabilities, increase defensive abilities, reduce costs, streamline processes, increase productivity, and build organizational success. Dr. Ramsey is an avid musician and inventor, having been granted dozens of international patents. He's received his PhD in the field of artificial intelligence, and his current role is the Chief AI Officer of a stealth startup. Dr. Ramsey, Shafe, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here. Now, as I get going and start talking, I want to admit that the storm has, I think, had an impact on network. So I may occasionally freeze, and if I do, I apologize. Just bear with me during those moments.
All right, we'll repeat if we need to, and just let us know if there's anything that you miss during the discussion. So let's go ahead and start with the elephant in the room. What is a Chief AI Officer?
So a Chief AI Officer is mandated by executive order in the U.S., and every federal entity needs to have a CAIO. And what they do is they address the policies and the regulations to bring AI and to address AI use in that entity within the federal government. So the private sector is starting to use the same concepts, and they have, just like you have a CIO or a CTO, you have a CAIO, and they address the use of AI in the company or the entity that you're working with. And so what I do is I'm mostly focused on regulations, policies, things like that are not necessarily the most exciting or dramatic, but very, very important, and making sure that we've got compliance with all of the patchwork of frameworks of legal regulations that are worldwide. When you have a worldwide organization, you've got to have compliance with every country that you do business in, and that can end up being half a dozen or so right now, different regulations that you need to be part of or be aware of.
So this is definitely a new career path, certainly at that C-suite executive level within companies, it sounds like.
one, and it's one that's going to continue to grow and continue to morph as new requirements come online, and as new regulatory entities and bodies come online. And of course, the technology itself is changing constantly. And so it's really a person in charge of trying to herd as many cats as possible in all of the different directions that the industry is going in, and make sure that the company or the federal agency is working towards a common goal and a common purpose.
All right. As we covered in your very extensive bio, which I feel we didn't even do justice to, you have experience and expertise in both AI and cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
For you personally, which one of these came first in your career?
Cybersecurity was the first one. When I started off, it was in the 80s. The first experience I had with it was we had computers in high school, and no one knew how to use them, and no one even knew how to turn them on, much less use them. And I was having a lot of fun with playing around with this untapped resource, and then I hacked into my first computer, and I was hooked on that. So I knew I wanted to do something to do with cybersecurity, but the industry didn't even exist. The name of the industry didn't exist. When I went to college, I went to the bookstore and I couldn't find any books on cyber, much less cybersecurity. In the books, I was at a Research One institution, and there's only 14 or so of those in the United States. And there was only one book in the bookstore about Linux, much less about anything. But it is cybersecurity first, and I had to form my own path, and I had to find my own way. It was very, very hard, and there was no one there to help guide the way for me. So finding mentors was difficult, and I made a promise to myself that once I figured things out, if anybody ever asked me for help, or if I had a chance to mentor anybody, or if I had a chance to go on a show like yours, uh, I would always say yes to it and do my best to help out those that come along afterwards to help ease their transition into cybersecurity. It's a great field. It's a lot of fun. It's huge. It's like saying the medical industry. There's so many different jobs in it, and they're all very, very important. And yet it's is still kind of a mystery. How does one break into cybersecurity? How does AI? How does one do these wonderful things that are possible? And so I made a promise to myself that I was always help folks out when I could, and so I'm happy to be part of the show and do my best.
Oh, well, we appreciate you being here for this. Can you speak a little bit more about the different types of cybersecurity roles that you had, especially in those early days? You mentioned it wasn't really even a career field yet. So certainly those jobs are probably kind of you wore all the hats or jack of all trades.
Yep.
What were some of the key areas that you focused on early on in your career?
So funny story, true story. The I was working as the head of intrusion detection, global head of intrusion detection for the Hartford Financial Services Group, which is a massive financial organization with about $200 billion in assets at the time. And we were and 9/11 happened. And I went to the CSO and I said, actually, the CSO called me and said, "What do you think's going on? And how do you think we should respond to it?" And in the process, I said, "I think we really need to form a cyber forensics group, a team that does forensics on cyber." And and this tells you what the industry was like back then. He said, "Forensics, you mean like debate?" And I said, "No, it's entirely different. It involves working with law enforcement, doing investigations on hackers, hopefully catching hackers, and hopefully executing some sort of response plan to hacking attempts." And so I ended up becoming dual-hatted as the head of and forensics for the Hartford Financial Services Group. Had a blast doing it, and it was a lot of fun, very challenging work, but it was worldwide work. And then from there, got very into forensics and did a lot of really interesting things. Because of 9/11, I went to work for the government, and for the most part, can't talk about any of that. But I can say things like, well, I was asked to brief the CIO of the Supreme Court, which was a fascinating, wonderful time. She was so smart, great questions, very interesting person. And I was asked to brief the banking committee, the Senate Banking Committee, the House Committee on Emerging Threats, and then a host of federal executive entities. And I've just had a blast doing that. But at the same time, I was trying to teach myself cybersecurity in all of its fields, and I wanted to specialize. So I moved away from forensics because I felt like I had done that, and had, to the best of my ability, mastered that. So then I went into looking at defense from different perspectives, and then I went into looking at, well, how do you reverse engineer malware? How do you find 0 days? How do you do things like that? And I had a blast doing that work. And then in along the way, I fell in love with artificial intelligence. So in about 2014, I started a company, an artificial intelligence startup out of Silicon Valley, and helped grow it to the 22nd position on the Forbes 100 list on the year that I made my exit. And it was an AI startup. We were doing large language models and generative AI before. So along the way, I built lots of patents that would secure AI, and those patents have since become somewhat famous in the patent world, if such a thing as famous can exist in the patent world. But one of the patents received a perfect score from the Patent Cooperation Treaty Committee, which means that in all 148 countries that signed the PCT, it was perfectly unique, perfectly innovative, and perfectly applicable to every industry they applied it to. Our patent lawyers said that they'd never seen anything like that before. And this is just an example of all the opportunity that's out there in the cyber field. If you just go for it as best as you can, and as best as you can, try to figure out where the fight is going to be, and get prepared for that. And I've been very blessed and very fortunate that as things fall into my lap, they tend to be where things are going to be, like AI, for example.
So you said 2014 you got started in AI. That's eons ago in terms of technology, cybersecurity, and AI goes. Was this something that you already had as a passion, or like you said, it fell in your lap? Was this something that was kind of a natural career progression that you were able to see kind of where the tea leaves were falling?
I I have always had a natural ability to be kind of like a weather vane, to point where things are going to be. And the disadvantage is I tend to be a little bit too far ahead of the curve. So I've learned to try and zero in on where the maximum benefit is on that curve. And when I started in 2014, I was too far ahead of the curve. Um, but now the curve has caught up to me. And so I'm really having a grand time building AI and setting up security for AI, and just having, and especially in 2014, 15, it was tough because people didn't know about AI. They'd ask questions. Well, what makes this artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? Why do I care? How is this going to benefit my business? Well, now they know the answers to those questions, and now they're asking questions like, well, how do I secure it? How do I make it consistent, confidential, available? And how do I do the standard cybersecurity things, which I've learned over the past, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triad. And how do you secure AI with that in mind? And of course, I'm just having a grand time doing it. But the trick is being able to read a lot of news and seeing where things are going and where you think they're going to go. And remember that nothing ever really exists in a vacuum. The field of cyber, whether it's cybersecurity, AI, or some other technology like operational technology, very interested in operational technology. I think is going to be very important in the coming years. OT, very important in the coming years. And so I'm starting to get interested in that. Um, but the trick is to try and figure out where the fight is going to be and then get your certifications and accreditations ready for that. And that way, when it does arrive, you're prepared to take the opportunities that are presented.
I think we lost you there for the last bit of it, but appreciate that insight, especially on the idea of trying to look to see where things are going. So we talk about AI almost. It's very ubiquitous now. Everybody's got it. You can't visit a website without some AI bot trying to talk to you.
Yep.
And then you see commercials all the time about whatever companies are bringing up their new AI capability that you never thought twice about. So you kind of grew up in this career field, but as this is becoming, the I guess career du jour of cyber, as this is becoming more.
So it looks like I may have lost all connectivity. And so I don't know if you heard me or not, but let me repeat what I was saying. Yeah, the career du jour is the last thing that I heard.
Uh,
And
I had my own network problems there apparently. So what I was trying to get into is how can someone that's wanting to get started in this area, what's a good place for them to break into, especially everybody's doing AI now, but if they really want to get into the AI and cybersecurity uh, crosswalk, what's a good starting point for someone just trying to start their career off?
absolutely question. And it has three components to it. I've thought about it a lot trying to prepare for today's meeting. And I've asked a lot of my friends how they broke into the field. And so I'd like to bring all that together in one quick scenario. There's like three questions that have to be asked. The first question is, do you want to be where the fight is or where the fight's going to be? The second question is, where are you? Where's the person in their career path? Are they in their late teens, early 20s? Are they in their late 20s, early 30s? Where are they in their career path? Because their opportunities are going to be different. And then, of course, the the third thing that's really important is to remember that in as cybersecurity and in artificial intelligence, there's a tremendous amount of don't necessarily consider to be strictly cybersecurity or AI. There's a tremendous amount of jobs out there. So I'd like to start with that last thing first. Let's talk about some jobs that are cybersecurity that people don't often think of as cybersecurity. For example, there's the field of tech writing. And ironically enough, if you don't have a great deal of experience in the technology, you tend to be a really great tech writer because you're going to ask questions that the reader would be asking, and you're going to be able to write a great document because of that. So if you don't have a lot of experience, don't have a lot of certifications, but you're looking to get into the field, tech writing might be a great way to go. There's another field that's really interesting, which is the accreditation and certification field. Massive amount of work available right now in that field, doing authority to operates, authority to connects, and that's not necessarily some of the most interesting and important work that there is once you get to understand it. Your best friend is NIST 800 TAC 53 Rev 5, and all of the other regulatory compliance entities and policies that you've got to comply with to get certification and accreditation for a system to connect to the internet, to operate within the bounds of the legal entity that it's operating within, whether it's in the United States or Europe or globally. And so those are two examples of how there are very important jobs in cybersecurity that people don't often think of as cybersecurity jobs. So let's talk about the age issue. So if you're just starting off in high school or in your 20s, consider if you're in high school especially, consider joining the JROTC or Sea Cadets and learn from them and join them to get the certification, the opportunity to network, the opportunity to um, uh, take classes and to build up your certification accreditation of your own abilities. So that's Sea Cadets and JROTC, great opportunities there. There's also opportunities like the Sea Cadets and JROTC for law enforcement. And law enforcement and the military are excellent avenues to start your cybersecurity or AI field because they'll teach you, they'll pay for it, and they'll give you your accreditation. They'll even clear you, get you through your clearance obligations. And so those are awesome opportunities when you're in your late teens, early 20s. When you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you still have those opportunities, but you have some more opportunities. Like, for example, you can go to college, you can get into your own company, and this is going to be a little bit counterintuitive. To think of someone starting a company, say a cybersecurity company, without a lot of knowledge about cybersecurity, you'd think, well, that's not necessarily a path to success. But it absolutely is a path to success. Hire people who know cybersecurity, and you work on getting them contracts and filling positions with their expertise. And of course, that also you have the opportunity to do things like podcasts and live performances of conferences and things like that. And you can do your own private research, which is an awesome way to break into the field. When you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you have even more opportunities of the same, but you start to see the loss of some of the previous opportunities. Like, for example, the military, law enforcement, not really an option anymore. But you have other options, such as starting your own startup again, and you're actually going to have more luck and success doing that. So it really depends on where the person is in their career and where their age sits and what opportunities they have. So do a self-assessment. Figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are. What motivates you, certainly, but also where you reside in the country. Are you looking for strictly remote work? Are you looking for local work? Are you interested in getting a security clearance? How would you go about doing that? Go through the military, go through the law enforcement, and that would be a way to do that. Um, and then the last thing is, where's the fight going to be? Now, my personal interpretation of the tea leaves, and I start this with a caveat that my crystal ball is broken, but but my personal interpretation of the tea leaves is that OT is going to be very, very important. Right now, there's a lot of need for operational technology people who can understand cybersecurity and can figure out and maintain SCADA ICS systems such as water supply, water plants, sewage, and electricity. Very, very important stuff. And they can't find the talent, the people with the available experience. So they're looking to bring on people and train them into that field. So that would be a great field to go into. And it's a great field where it's going to be where the fight is, in my opinion, in a couple of years.
All right. you've mentioned that that concept several times now. You go where the fight's going. You also spoke to reading the news, podcasts, things like that. If for someone that wants to kind of be on that cutting edge of where technology is going, where the threat landscape is going, do you have any recommendations for sources, whether it's podcasts, blogs, other information sources that they can subscribe to really help keep them in the know?
Absolutely. Feedly is a great site I use all the time, and it's great because it's an aggregator of information. So feedly.com, feedly.com, will aggregate security and OT, and it will aggregate the sources and give you a daily dump or an hourly dump feed of information, depending on what you sign up for. You can do your own research with the Hacker News and, of course, Bleeping Computer and the sites that people are, I think, maybe a little bit more familiar with. Um, uh, and um, and those are great sites. Now, what I tend to do because of I'm me, I've built an AI that does all of this for me. And it's a generative AI. So it reads all the information on a daily basis, summarizes it, and then knows what I'm interested in and gives me that and tells me, I think this is going in this direction in the future, and I think this is going in this direction. But that's me. I built my own system and it runs on a laptop. But anyone can do that. And let's talk about some of the ways that people can do that. GitHub.com is a great site for finding sources, programs that other people have written that they release for free that will do aggregation of information and specialization of information, selecting it so that you get the information that you need so that you can make good uh, decision on database decisions. And so go to GitHub and do searches on news site aggregators, AI aggregators that you can run locally on your own system, on your own laptop, and you'll find that they exist and you don't have to invent them. I invented them because I'm me and that's what I like to do, but you don't have to invent the wheel.
Awesome. Well, Shafe, I feel like a half an hour is now nearly enough time. We're coming up on the end of the show. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked just about every one of our guests to kind of help close us out here. If you could go back to the beginning of your career, what would you do differently?
So that's what I would do. No, there's
I'm
some
asking you to
things.
repeat that because I think you froze up right, as you
Oh
gave the
no.
answer.
Well, it was a funny joke, I promise. The thing I would do differently is I would buy a lot of Bitcoin.
Oh, all right.
There are some things where I missed the opportunity. I missed the curve, and crypto is definitely a place where I missed the curve. So I would have learned. I would have gone back and really focused on trying to get where the fight's going to be earlier in my process. It's a lesson I learned late in the process, and I wish I'd learned it earlier.
All right. So yeah, that's been the common theme throughout the whole conversation. I think it's actually a great, great point to make. Is stop. We talk about the analogy of a 5-year-old's playing soccer. Stop chasing the ball. Get out in front of it. And
Yeah.
position yourself better for that one. So absolutely appreciate it. We're coming up here on the 30-minute mark. One thing. Do you have any kind of social media LinkedIn profile that you're willing to share with folks if they'd like to continue to reach out and pick your brain or seek some mentorship after the show?
Absolutely. You can always find me on LinkedIn, and I do my best to respond to everyone because I do believe in that it's an obligation for all of us to help each other out as we go through this field and expand into the field and turn it into the awesome industry that I know it's going to be and already is in many cases. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Shafer Ramsey, and that's my only social media site.
All right, perfect. Shafe, I want to thank you very much for sharing your experience with us and with the community today. For those watching or listening to our discussion, thank you as well. Today's discussion will be posted and available via Tortora Brayda and AUSCF's website. And just a reminder, the Tortora Brayda Institute and Association of U.S. Cyber Forces are committed to reshaping and empowering diverse collaboration and developing the cyber workforce. And you, the workers, you shape, and those like you are the reason why we do what we do. So we hope today's conversation has helped you, the listener, on your path to cyber professional development. And on behalf of Tortora Brayda and AUSCF, thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us for the next Cyber Workforce Series discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.